Regulators, when evaluating an M&A deal, are focusing on several new areas. A key one, though, that's come about of late is the diligence process. The Federal Reserve has a question in the regulatory applications, typically eliciting information about what that process was, who's involved, how is it run, what red flags were there. And so the regulators in evaluating an M&A deal not only want to know why, how it's going to be funded, but they also want to know what red flags were raised, how you're going to deal with them going forward, and certain integration issues. They're going to ask those types of questions during the application process. And if you've done your homework up front, you're going to have a much smoother process. I think some of the key areas an audit committee should focus on in doing due diligence in an M&A transaction is process. I mean, a lot of what an audit committee does is process-based. It's no different in an M&A deal. Building a diligence team is really important. A lot of it depends upon the size of the deal, the experience of the management team. But focusing on that team, incorporating some element of the compliance function of the buyer into that diligence team to be able to competently evaluate a seller's processes, procedures, compliant functions, to raise the red flags that an audit committee may then consider down the road before deciding to go forward. Some red flags audit committees should be looking for in the diligence process. There's some baseline ones. Has the target bank changed its auditor within the last 2 years? Have they changed third-party vendors? What are the reasons for those? Sometimes they're good reasons. Maybe the target bank's grown. Maybe they've got a regular rotation of third-party vendors. But those are red flags. If you're changing your outside personnel, or if you're having disputes with your auditors, those are baseline red flags, and those warrant additional investigation. I think it's really important for a diligence team to assess a target bank's internal control environment, particularly in today's banking environment. I mean, so much of today's banking environment, what regulators are looking for is risk management driven. And so a target bank, if you're looking to make that acquisition, you need to understand what you're getting. How have they monitored it? What are they doing to monitor it? Who's monitoring it? What's their audit committee function? Do they have a separate risk committee? And then how are you going to integrate that into the buyer's institution, the audit committee's duties, and a separate risk committee if necessary? I think an audit committee, depending upon the size of the institution, the buyer, and the size of the transaction, needs to consider evaluating at least the recent audits of a target institution in the context of a diligence investigation. And there are a couple reasons for that. I think one is you want to understand who the auditor is. Are you comfortable with them? What are their assumptions that are being used in their financial statements? And then the second reason I think that an audit committee should look at least recent ones, and certainly should consider at least the diligence team evaluating past audits, is for integration purposes. Again, what assumptions are being used, what financial statements, what are the baselines for preparation of those financial statements, and how is it going to impact the buyer on a go-forward basis. A lot of that's going to be done at the management level, but I do think the audit committee needs to consider, or at least ask the questions of their diligence team. Have you evaluated these? What are those assumptions? Poke a little to get the answers that are necessary.